Here's my car, valet people.
I'm sorry, Mr. Trump. There's a delivery truck blocking your car right now. We're going to get it moved. I'm sorry. It'll take like a couple minutes, I swear.
I don't have a couple of minutes. I'm busy. You know, I'm making money. I'm busy. Hey, by the way, whose car is this? Whose is it? I like this car. Is this your car?
Yes.
Well, you know what? I'm buying it. I need it. I need it fast. I'm buying it.
You're buying my car?
Yeah, here's your check. Thanks.
Oh my God. Wow. Well, just let me get my kids out of the back.
Now, wait a minute. I don't have time for this. Busy your kids?
Yeah.
I'm buying them too.
Buy my
I'm
kids.
buying your kids too.
Whoa.
Good to see you, Rose.
Bye, me.
Bye, guys. Be good, okay? I love you. And I'll be email you, okay?
No, Donald Trump just bought a stranger's children. Hello, kids. I just bought you.
Who are you?
What, do you live in a cave? I'm Donald Trump. I'm the biggest. I'm the best.
I'm scared.
Don't be scared. Look, here's $12,000. That'll take care of your fear. Don't have fear in life.
Donald Trump just paid that little girl not to express human emotion.
Mr. Trump, what about your car?
Just keep it as a tip, okay?
Sweet. Guys, I got a call. Mr. Trump, can you give us a quick, you're fired?
Listen, I don't give away my catchphrases. Now I have to get out of here. Buckle up, you kids who I just bought. Just buckle up, please, right now. I'm out of here. The Trumpster's the greatest.
Whoa. He just called himself the Trumpster.
Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the following program. I'm your host, Joe Neerman, a.k.a. Good Lawgic. I need to start by just informing you all that after the show, I'm going to be having an after party. There's going to be like an after party. There's going to be drinks. There's going to be dancing. Not here in this studio, but wherever you are, that definitely will be happening. There's going to be comedy. There's going to be levity. There's going to be insights. You don't want to miss it. The link is in the description. The link is in the chat. It doesn't matter if you're in Rumble. It doesn't matter if you're in YouTube. It's there. The link is there. So you want to click that as soon as you finish with this show over here. This show is scheduled to end at 1 o'clock in the morning Eastern time. Oh, my God. Did I forget to put out? I did. I did a terrible job. I got so bogged down taking care of stuff. I didn't even put a notice. This is on me. I stink. I need to remedy this right now. Jack started just at 11 EST. Control V. Gaetz out. Gaetz out. Bondi in, etc. And I should put also like the Rumble link in there, just that the Rumble people don't get all offended. I know you ghetto people very easily bruised. For people who think they're so tough, very easily bruised. I'm just messing with you. You know I love you. That's not how you spell started. That's how you spell Statbred Ted. Started. Okay. Put this into a thing here. This was a bad job on me. This was a very bad job on me. It's Thursday. I didn't send it out in the community notes. I didn't send it out. I'm just going to put it as going live now. That's what's happening. I'm going live now. It's not my fault they clicked too slow. Publish. Make a live chat for them. Start chat. Yes, start. Okay. Locals notification is out. Locals notification is out. And then we got. That's not bad. You don't want to hear me echoing. And then Bondi in, etc. Control V. Oh, Nika Burger. That's wrong. Link the link. Copy link. So slow. And now we're just going to put this in. We're just going to pretend that nothing happened yet. Just pretend nothing happened, okay? Just pretend. We can pretend. Well, no one's going to know. All right, all my notifications are out. You don't work on BPT. Look at this. I walk in here. Allegan News hitting me with the 20. With 20 new followers. God bless you. God bless you, Matt. You're awesome. You are awesome. Who'd you bring to me? Who'd you bring to me? Who'd you bring to me? Let's see who brought me. I can't see it here. Is it here? Is it there? No. Is it here? It might be here. Small chance for Uncle Thomas. I do have it. Yay. All right. Following people brought into the following, where if you run to the following first and foremost, please express your gratitude to the captain of recruitment, Matt Skinner. Your names include Harlan Remy. Welcome to the following. Sultan El Fahim. Welcome to the following. Patty Pignatelli. Epstein's bedsheet necktie. Welcome to the following. You need help. And the following is here for you. Epstein's bedsheet necktie. Michael Drum. Damian Fowler. Jack Graham. Keenan. Joanna Wind. It really could technically be Joanna Wind. Don't tell me I'm wrong about that. It really could be Joanna Wind. There's no context for me to know. Is it Wind? Is it Wind? I don't know. But I'm thinking Wind, like she moves like Joanna moves like the wind. Moves like the wind. This is not just all right. Dion Hayes, Ann Baker, Jenny with a G. I should call you Genny with a G. Genny with a G. That'd be good. That's your new name. I confer upon you is Genny. Ridgecrest, McTavius, Rusty Shackelford, Justin, Cindy Daytor, Captain Obvious, all that brought into the following, brought into the fold, brought into the little den over here where we're all about greater personal growth, brought into the cloth, the veil. Now you might look and you might say, "Oh, this guy talking to me, does he think he's some sort?" No, I'm not a leader. Everyone knows. It's well written, it's well documented. Joe is not the leader of the following. Emphasis on the reason we say 2 knots there is to make it like doubly clear. It's crystal clear. Anyway, God bless you, Matt. You are awesome. Thank you, brother. Send it. Most delicious followers ever. Just show up on time. We don't work on BPT. What the heck is BPT? I literally have no idea what you're talking about. I was hoping you'd be Trump's AG pick. We were all hoping. He never even called. It's kind of rude. Some days I think Joe is Black Hebrew Israelite with his abilities to be on time. Thank you. Jews are actually notoriously late, if you must know. It's actually, they actually refer to coming late as showing up. Like they'll say, I've been invited to events where they'll be like, yeah, it's starting at 6:00 Jewish time, which means not really 6:00, but we're telling people 6:00 so people start milling in here at 6:30, 6:45. That's literally, they'll literally phrase it that way. That's how my people will phrase it. 6:00 Jewish time. So there you go. Matt Gaetz today shocked the world. Shocked the world. He did. He shocked me. I didn't see this coming. I'm not going to kid you. I did not see this coming. Not after you go into the Senate yesterday and getting all this love and everything that's happening there. This is a very confusing story. It's a very confusing incident as to what was happening. Oh, okay. Matt Gaetz saying, I had excellent meetings with senators yesterday. I appreciate their thoughtful feedback and the incredible support of so many. While the was strong, it is clear that my confirmation was unfairly becoming a distraction to the critical work of the Trump-Vance transition. Let's assume that this, I'm gonna proceed for the rest of the show with an assumption that that sentence there, being the motivation for him dropping out, is a lie. I'm just gonna start with that. That's, and I don't mean lying like, oh, you're so full of crap. No, I'm gonna say, like, the same way someone says, no, you don't, that you don't look fat in that dress. So too, he's saying, yeah, it's too much of a distraction to the critical work of the Trump-Vance transition. So I'm just gonna assume that this sentence is a lie. I'm gonna talk about what happened here. Because I think it's important to reflect on it. Also to dissect who Pam Bondi is and what the future for Matt Gaetz holds and all that other good stuff. All right. There's no time to waste on a needlessly protracted Washington scuffle. Thus, I'll be withdrawing my name from consideration to serve as Attorney General. Trump's DOJ must be in place and ready on day one. I remain fully committed to see that Donald J. Trump is the most successful president in history. I will forever be honored that President Trump nominated me to lead the Department of Justice, and I'm certain he will save America. All right, team player all the way. A lot of people are commending him for stepping out of the race and sort of removing this little sideshow from the whole spectacle of what's going to go down over the next 60 days or in the first 10, 15 days of the first couple of weeks of Trump's administration. So it could be that Trump asked him to step out. He's like, I don't have to retract it on you. But that's possible. I mean, let's put it this way. If Trump had second thoughts based on just what a complete screaming fest he became, let's assume that initially he intended, I'm really going to make him my AG, and not that this was just some perfect troll for the left. If you're starting with that assumption, so in that case, there's basically two people who could have made this decision. It could have been Matt Gaetz or it could have been Donald Trump. So if you want to understand why he stepped down, if you're Donald Trump, and let's assume that this was not the plan from the get-go, which I'm going to go down that perspective also, because I heard some people making that case that this was always the plan. In which case you sort of have to ask yourself a whole bunch of other questions. So I want to do this in a flowchart type of way. So first and foremost, I'm assuming that this is a lie. And he says that the reason he's stepping out is because it became a distraction. I mean, maybe it's not a lie. Maybe it's not, I should rephrase that. Perhaps it's not a lie, but it is like a really big hassle. It's becoming like a really, really big hassle. Now, let's assume that this was not something that was orchestrated from the get-go, but that this was a decision that was made over the last couple of days after the whole reaction to Matt Gaetz being named came out. So, if you are Matt Gaetz, you clearly have to be concerned about all this talking. Now they're saying that there was a hacker. We talked about the fact whether there was a hacker as far as the whole ethics committee report, which nobody who's got half a brain genuinely believes it was a hack rather than a leak. But one way or another, we have to assume that it's getting out there into the public sphere, whatever the details are. And if you ask me my heart of hearts, and I was on Spaces earlier today talking about him stepping down. And they were basically talking about how Joel Greenberg, the person who is Matt Gaetz's Michael Cohen. You know how Michael Cohen basically came after Trump? So Joel Greenberg was basically the same guy. Friend kind of thing who's turned on him. Also criminal, also a liar, also admitted to being basically full of crap, and that's what for like a living. And pleading out because of his lies. And so it's basically Joel Greenberg is Matt Gaetz's is Gaetz's Michael Cohen. So now some people speculate that Greenberg from the get-go first forged a relationship with Matt Gaetz, which would be different from Matt Cohn, that this was all a psyop, that basically he was the guy who hooked Matt Gaetz up with all these young girls who are of, we'll call them barely legal age. And then occasionally, perhaps, trying to slip in a couple who were not barely legal. Purposefully, for the purpose of trying to, destroy his career. There are people who speculate about that. I don't know. Maybe that's true. Joel Greenberg had 30 different counts, 30 different indictments brought against him, which got reduced down to 6 after he pled out. He was looking at life in jail. And then all of a sudden now he's best buddies with the DOJ and he's some sort of asset to the FBI in helping go after Matt Gaetz. You can talk about that. Is that true? Is it not true? I don't know. Will we find out more about this in the future? Perhaps. Who knows? But if it happens, if we find out about it, it'll likely be weeks, months, years from now before that all becomes exposed. And we're trying to live in the here and now as to what our perception of reality is and as to what's going on, given what the people in the public spotlight are giving off to we the peons who are outside that those inner circles. So with that in mind, there's one possibility you can come up with, and I'm curious about your thoughts, and you can drop a thought below. Like, what do you think happened? Do you think that this was planned, that Donald Trump planned to do this? Or do you think that this was reaction? Do you think Trump asked him to step down? So this is like getting like a little bit crazy. There's like, I know we expected some kickback, but there's like a lot of kickback, and now this ethics report looks like it's coming out. Some people speculate that the reason Matt Gaetz wanted to get out of the House was to stop the ethics committee from releasing the report. There's a longstanding tradition in the House of Representatives that if you leave the House, whatever ethics reporting or committee meetings, investigations going on, that they terminate immediately. And they were supposed to be dropping a report any day, and that he was looking to get out. And that's why, boom, knee jerk, he jumps right out as soon as Donald Trump throws out a freaking Truth Social post that he's going to name him as the AG. It was a little bit of an unusual move to say, I'm stepping out so we can start the whole election process. Maybe. I'll tell you this. Matt Gaetz is brilliant. I think he's a really smart guy. That doesn't mean he doesn't make mistakes. I'm sure he makes a lot of mistakes. It doesn't mean he has, as far as like gauging the politics of how things will operate, but he understands the rules and he understands he understands a lot more about the political landscape than you or I are likely to ever know. So I think he's shrewd. And I also think that his agenda, from what I see from him, he seems to be genuine and sincere that he really is looking to expose corruption. That doesn't mean that he doesn't have skeletons. And I don't mean necessarily skeletons in the form of he's done something illegal. Because the more I've looked into that case, the less likely I think he's done something illegal. What I was trying to explain when I was on those spaces is that just because it's not illegal does not mean it's not that even the things he did which are legal may not be considered by many people who have to confirm him as being kind of stomach turning. Not exactly the role model you want to set for your attorney general. So, is that wrong? Is that a thing? And you could do whataboutisms. You could say, what about this attorney JG and he has this skeleton, or this judge who has those skeletons and all this other stuff. And you can talk about Bill Clinton and cigars. You could talk about all sorts of gross things that happen in Washington. And it's all true. Everything you're going to tell me, I'm positive you're not going to be lying to me. It's all going to be true. That is different from naming this person as the country's top cop. And he's the top cop who we know basically was shagging a lot of barely legals. Let's assume all of them are legal. We know that that's like he has a propensity towards that. So basically what you're asking to say is like, no, he didn't do anything illegal. He has an appetite for youngins. And I mean youngins legal, barely legal youngins. But he has an appetite for that, which I don't think he would deny that he does. It's just it's not something that people can be like, yeah, okay, so I know he has this appetite, he has this propensity toward that, and then you have these different claims. Let's assume those claims are complete and total BS, and they were framed and they were terribly like evil, corrupt people. But now it's those frame ups that he has to explain away all bring spotlight. They bring a spotlight into this appetite that he has, because you can't get away from that. So no one feels comfortable. No one really wants to get up there and say, in a court of law, you might feel, an attorney might feel very comfortable defending him, saying he's done nothing wrong. This is crazy. There's no reason he should be punished. And that's true. That's different from saying, there's a difference between saying he shouldn't be punished versus saying, this is the guy who, from everyone in the country, this is the one who is the role model to be the top cop. And like I said, I know we've had a lot of crappy role models. I'm not hating on Matt Gaetz at all. A lot of people misunderstand when I talk about Matt Gaetz, that they think that that because I can see the flaws in the man, that means I don't appreciate the greatness in the man. And I do appreciate the greatness. I appreciate the greatness that I think he's brilliant. I think he's smart. I think he's sincerely trying to help make America a better place, and that he's displayed a shrewdness for understanding politics in DC in ways that few people have, while at the same time displaying integrity, that he's not looking at it for himself, but that he's looking at it to better life for Americans, and that is all too rare a thing, which probably puts him in the top 5% of all politicians we've seen in Washington in this century. Okay, those qualities I understand, and I'm on board with you. Big Matt Gaetz fan. Big Matt Gaetz fan. You need to look at the political landscape that you're basically telling 50 that I need to get 50 out of. I have to get 50 out of 53 senators, because I know all Democrats are going to vote against them. I got to get 50 out of 53, where I know I'm starting with 2 who are going to say, F you, no. So I have to get 50 out of 51 of them to go along confirming a guy who I have to admit to them, yeah, he has some strain. He has an appetite for really young girls, but he never crossed that illegality line. It's just, and he's the guy that we're saying should be the top cop. It's a hard sell. It's a hard sell. You need to be realistic as to the fact that it is a hard sell. I mean, you might be able to sell it, but it is a hard sell. And at the end of the day, it's not, even with that, I was willing to go to war with him. I'd say, you know what? These claims are crap. I'm going to war with him. It's not me who decided not to go to war with him. It's one of 2 people who decided not to go to war with this. And that's either Donald Trump or Matt Gaetz. But one of them basically said, yeah, let's cut this. And recognize that doesn't mean it's the end of Matt Gaetz' career. It doesn't mean it's the end of his life. It doesn't mean that he's now not going to have any significant impact on MAGA. It just means he's not going to be taking this role. That's all it really means. It also likely means he's not going to be taking a role which he needs confirmation from the Senate. But there's a lot of roles that he can take which are very important, very significant, very highly influential, where you don't need to have him on display for a full week like Kavanaugh was, with all these women coming out there saying, and then I was only 17, I didn't know what to do. And he's got to sit there like, it's just, who needs it? Like, who needs it? Who needs it? No one's going to forget Christine Blasey Ford, ever. People still remember Tawana Brawley with Clarence Thomas. So it's like Matt Gaetz is like, do I want to have that as being the thing that most people remember about me 100 years from now? And I can understand him saying, not so much. Not so much. Now, frankly, Clarence Thomas, I think he's done enough after his confirmation that most people who look at Clarence Thomas historically, when they look back decades from now, centuries from now, when they look back at Clarence Thomas, I think that they will hold him in exceedingly high esteem, exceedingly high. And they'll say that our generation never fully appreciated the greatness of Clarence Thomas. But it's like he's living here and now amongst people who are sitting here and are continually going to be just throwing this at him over and over and over again. And the more it's in the public fodder, the more entrenched and associated it comes to his legacy forever. So I can understand him like sort of like stepping back, and maybe some senators sat down with him and said, look, you need to realize this is what will happen. If we go through this confirmation process, perhaps we can get you through. It's first, you're going to be Kavanaugh. That's what's going to happen first. You are going to be Kavanaugh, and it may be far worse than Kavanaugh because they may bring in multiple witnesses. They're not going to be forgetful. It's going to be much harder to say that they're, it's going to be a massive spectacle, and this is going to attach to your name forever. And it's possible that Matt Gaetz is like, you know what? Why don't I just go work in Doge with Vivek and Elon? That could be cool too. He could be, by the way, he could become a special prosecutor. That could happen too. Go after Merrick Garland. Ooh, go after Joe Biden. Ooh. There's a lot of roles he can have where he'll be very well regarded and very well remembered outside of being Attorney General. So anyway, so he ends up, some people speculate, I should point out, some people speculate that this was Trump's plan all along. It was to expose the neocons, or it was to make them feel as if they got their victory now, and that by getting their victory, he became the focus. It was much less talk about Tulsi, much less freak out about RFK, much less freak out, about some of these appointments, and that by basically turning the spotlight on Matt Gaetz, that's sort of distracted from there being all sorts as much freak out about the other appointments. It's possible. It's possible. My gut says no, because I don't think he would have stepped out of the house so quickly. The only counter argument is no, he stepped out of the house so quickly because he was planning on leaving the house anyway, because he just didn't want to deal with that report being released. It's possible. Now, the other talk that people are having is that whether or not he can serve in the 119th Congress, and you have to ask, what is the ramifications of him immediately resigning from Congress? He gets elected, and then right after to serve in the 119th Congress, which commences January 3rd, 2025, he's currently serving the 118th Congress, and then he resigns. So what is that resignation from? Is that saying I am no longer ever serving in the House? Or is it a resignation from his role in the 118th Congress, and he's out until this Congress session terminates? When the next session commences, that he can be sworn back in with them. And I actually think that philosophically, legally, it makes a lot of sense. With respect to the rules, someone was quoting me the rules. Let me see if I had here the rules that were pulled. Someone shared it with me. I was actually asking this question. Someone read off that it only does affect, that his resignation only impacts his... Let me see if I can find it here. Maybe someone replied to me and gave me a citation. But someone quoted a House rule which was purportedly claiming that it only impacts his role in the 118th Congress. It only impacts that. I didn't get the citation on it. I don't know what it is. My gut says that if he wants to serve in the 119th Congress, that he can. Now, according to MSNBC, they are purportedly reporting that he said he's not going to come back in the 119th Congress and that he's still staying out. I do not think his political career is anywhere close to over. Quite the contrary. I think he's got a lot longer of a political career, and frankly, he might be named as a senator. That could happen. He could be named the senator of Florida, replacing Marco Rubio. That could happen too. You don't know. Nobody knows. But right now, they're saying that he's moving over to Doge. He's going to be working with Elon and Vivek and trying to clean up corruption in our government. Frankly, there's so much corruption. You probably need 10 Vivek. You probably need 50 of those fine people to really root out all the rotten corruption, especially if you're not just going through the financial elements of it and all the money waste that happens there, but if you're going through the personnel waste also, that's like a whole second massive undertaking. You really need a lot of very good, very reliable people, very competent and reliable and committed people to get that done effectively, especially since they're planning on having that wrapped up in a year and a half by July 4th, 2026, as announced by Donald Trump. So for all these reasons, you should not be weeping for Matt Gaetz. No one should be weeping for Matt Gaetz. He's going to be fine. He's going to be fine. And no one should take this as me saying that Matt Gaetz is guilty of anything. And he may, at the end of the day, we should just respect the fact that he made the call that he felt was right for him, and he's going to have a very fine political career in which hopefully I'm fully expecting that he is going to be a considerable contributor into helping make America making America great again. So,
in the updated version of the document, aggression against Russia by any
I apologize for that. Okay. With that, let me get your questions, your thoughts, your comments. And I didn't get into Pam Bondi yet. I'll talk to you about, how good or bad Pam Bondi is and what our thoughts are on what my thoughts are on Pam Bondi. Let me get to super chats first. I would love to hear your thoughts. If you think I'm mistaken about my Gaetz assessment, by all means, drop a comment down below or wherever, and wherever you feel is most appropriate. I'm going to check first in the ghetto because no one expected that. It's like all this. It's like you thought I go left. No, I went right. I went right. Yeah. No, I don't see it. I don't see anything happening over there that I need to report on to you fine people. Some days I think Joe is black. We got this. Were you just singing Small House? Yes, I was. I don't know what made me start singing that. When I watched back the video, you want to know something really interesting? This is the really scary part. Because I do weave a lot. I do a lot of weaving. I was singing Small House of Uncle Thomas from The King and I. I don't know what made me start singing it. I don't remember what it was, but I will tell you this. Sometimes I'll rewatch my own work, and if I start rewatching this show, when I get to that part that made me start singing that, as I'm watching it, I will start singing it at exactly the same moment without remembering that I'm about to start singing it. And then I'll laugh at myself that, oh my God, I'm the same person I was 3 hours ago or 2 days ago when I did this. It's like it's just things as well kicking my brain into just start going down a certain road and I can't control it. Good job. Good call, Kimmy. Mike Rogers would be awful FBI director. Ugh, he would be. I showed all the clips of how terrible he is. Terrible. Might as well leave Chris Wray in there. Same person. He's the same person as Chris Wray. Another Republican who's a neocon who just wants to power, control, and to spy on everyone. That's what Mike Rogers is. Joe, did you hear that high war crimes court issues an arrest warrant for Netanyahu? I did not hear that. Yeah, okay. International court is the stupidest thing in the world. You want to know what makes court powerful? Its ability to execute on their decisions and judgments. That's what gives a court meaning. Otherwise, it's a bunch of elitist jackasses sitting around saying, we're really important and this is what we think. So it makes the ICJ kind of stupid. Unless there's some sort of mandatory compulsory execution by the body of countries that agreed to partake in it. If they're not willing to execute on it, it's meaningless. I'm saying this as someone who spent much of their career trying to execute on judgments and recognizing that if you cannot execute on them, the judgment isn't worth the paper it's printed on. So to a political statement or anything like that. So there's no upside to this. They will turn to Hegseth next. Then Collins, Murkowski, McConnell, etc. We'll talk about Hegseth after I finish talking about Pam Bondi. I have a lot on Hegseth. We'll talk about that soon. And I do think they're going to go after Hegseth next. Yes. I do think they're going to go after that. You madman. God bless you, Matt Skinner, bringing on into the following another 20 friggin' people. Who'd you bring in here? Who'd you bring in here? Am I gonna be able to get it still? Zach Whiteside, welcome to follower. God bless you. Welcome, Zach Whiteside. Yeah, I'm not going to get it. I'm sorry. Those of you who brought into the following, please bear in mind that the following is not at all a cult, and there's no Kool-Aid, no spaceships, no vaccine. I'm never supposed to use that word. I don't even know what the hell is happening to me. I will tell you that in my locals after party, I plan on talking a little bit about certain things that I'm not supposed to talk about on YouTube, whatever that may be, and certain evidence that Trump was really, really, really correct, and other things of that nature related to that issue. Stuff I cannot talk about here. So that's going to be part of it. I'm also going to be, in my after party, going to be going through that Penny interrogation. Two completely unrelated topics. One is going to be about the Penny interrogation, and the other is going to be about the whole with stuff. So that's going to be after I wrap up over here on locals, goodlogic.locals.com. I urge you to join us in the after party. Join us. But that's not till like at least 1 o'clock in the morning my time, and that's if I work really fast now over the next hour. Yeah, so welcome to the following. We got cookies. This election is definitely feeling like The Apprentice. Who will be fired next? Who will be the next team leader of The Apprentice? It's got a very uncomfortable, yeah. Gaetz will be appointed to Rubio's Florida Senate seat. That'd be great. Kash Patel will get AG. I really want him in the FBI, not AG. I really want him in the FBI. And he's not getting the AG because that was already given to Pam Bondi, or at least announced that it's going to Pam Bondi. Floating Gaetz as AG was a massive distraction troll. Gaetz knew it too. If Gaetz knew it too, then you have to ask, why did he step out of the house? Why did he resign immediately? No one else resigned from their positions. You didn't see Rubio say, I'm resigning from the Senate. You didn't see that. Now, I understand that Gaetz had to do it in order to have a new election. You don't have a new election when you're replacing a senator. I understand that. But you didn't see Lee Stefanik step out, resign. You didn't see that happen. Nobody saw that happen. She's supposed to have a role also. So maybe he had plans of resigning anyway. He probably was thinking, like, yeah, if Trump wins, it's possible. He's thinking if Trump wins, I'll get some role in his administration. I'll resign my seat here. You know, to deal with that whole backlash. It's possible. I don't know what could be in that report that's so terrible, other than it basically talking about his appetite for the barely legal crowd. Wait, how do we know he has a barely legal appetite? There's a lot of video. There's a lot of video of him consorting with barely legals, and I don't think he denies that he has an appetite for the barely legals. Some people say, I heard Stealth claiming that it was when he was 28, not when he was 38. I've seen some videos that you just sort of like, all right, that's his taste. You know, if it's not anything wrong with it, if it's consensual or adults, there's nothing wrong with it. No one. You know, people are not really like thrilled to rally around it. He has an allegation that officials didn't think he had legs to charge, but Swalwell has proven to be banging China's spy Fang Fang and still sits on Congress. Make it make sense, the hypocrisy. You're asking the perfect question here. There's a lot of hypocrisy here, of like, you know, rules for thee but not for me, and my point is, there's a difference. If he had just been staying in the seat, that was one thing. But when he's going to be AG, that's a different thing. And look, he's the one who made the call. And he could sit on the 119th Congress, on the 119th session of Congress, and the same seat that he's had for the last several years. It's his decision. So I don't know. What do you want me to say? It's his decision, and I like him as much as you do. So I don't know what you want me to say, other than I agree with you that there's tremendous. I know you're not criticizing me here, beautiful messy ball. I know that. My point is to those of you who are who are getting, were getting upset. And I don't think you were one of them. This doesn't. You're basically angry about the hypocrisy of the Democrats, and I know that's what you're saying here. But those of you who are getting upset with me, I like him as much as you do, and this was his decision. I'm simply saying I can spell out reasons why he would make that decision, and that's the value I'm giving. Otherwise, why are you watching me? I'm just sitting here. If I'm saying the exact same thing as what you're saying and not giving you other things to think about, I don't know why anyone's watching me. Well, this is just the dulcet tones. Could be the dulcet tones. Darkborn. Darkborn. Hey, Joe. Yeah. I thought the left was okay with minor attract persons. So what's the problem with Gaetz other than he's Republican? It's really, you can't take out it's that he's a Republican. That's really it. It's that he's a Republican. And he's not, and it's, by the way, he's not minor because they're above the age of minority. Look, I read one report. According to one report that I read, he was in the middle of engaging in an encounter with a girl. One girl claims, if you believe their reports, and they're not full of crap, what they say about him is this, that he was in the middle of engaging by a pool, and that someone said she was 17, and he stopped immediately and was like, no more until you're 18. So, yeah, that she had lied, that the girl basically had lied and said she was 18. And then it was told to him while he's literally in the middle of engaging that she's 17. He stops dead in his tracks and says, and basically cut off all communications with her until she was 18. So there you go. If you believe her story, his objective was to comply with the law. Like, I don't think that story makes him look. It makes it look like he's, he at least has respect for the law at the very, very least. The type of respect for the law that you would hope an AG would have, but at the same time, it's not exactly something you would. It's not the first story you would say if you were interviewing for the job. It's not the first story you would bring up. Imagine he's interviewing for the job of AG. So tell me why you think, well, I stand up for the law and I have a strong respect for the law, so much respect for the law that even if I'm in the middle of engaging in and I'm full on just completely in the moment, I will stop myself dead and just move on. It's like, okay, I guess that's true. It's true. It's just not the story you tell. It's just not the story that you tell when you're interviewing for the job. That's just my take. I would say you probably better stories to tell. But I want to specify that's not being minor attracted the way they refer to it. That's not being a map. Can he still take office in Congress? So I addressed that. Was Gaetz a troll move to scout deep state allies? The very first thing I said when I heard that Trump was put that up there, I was like, this is the greatest troll ever. So I don't know. And then it seemed real. And now I'm like, maybe it was just a troll. I don't know. That's what some people are speculating, was to scout deep state allies. I'll tell you this. Here's an ally. You talk about deep state allies. Here's an ally that I didn't expect to get, because this guy I would think of as being a real classic neocon. Here's Tommy Tuberville.
A majority of voters decided that the America First agenda championed by Donald Trump and J.D. Vance is the playbook for American greatness. As a part of that playbook, President Trump has already put together a very strong list of qualified cabinet members.
This is not a guy I would have thought would be on the MAGA side.
At defense, he's tapped Pete Hegseth, a veteran who served 2 tours in Iraq and Afghanistan, his Ivy League educated businessman background. That's what we need in the Pentagon right now to restore order in our finances. At HHS, he's assigned Robert F. Kennedy Jr., who has single-handedly brought attention to the many public health crises facing Americans. He's Harvard educated, has authored multiple books, and has a 4-decade career in public health and environmental law. And an attorney general, he's nominated Matt Gaetz, a qualified attorney who has served in Congress for nearly a decade. Matt Gaetz has been a warrior for the Constitution on the Judiciary Committee and has exposed the weaponization of the justice system of the DOJ. Ask yourself, why are my Democratic colleagues, the media, and the establishment losing their minds over these highly qualified nominees? It's because of the dislike President Trump, the American First Agenda, and nearly 80 million Americans who voted to send him back to the White House. It's obvious. Panic has set in at the DOJ, the intelligence community, and the entire DC swamp. They're finding out, as Barack Obama said, that elections have consequences.
Elections have consequences. And I like that he put that sign up there just as a reminder. It's basically him telling his fellow Republicans in the Senate, how dare you think of voting against his cabinet appointments. Now, another thought you can have on this is perhaps this makes them feel as if they got their scalp. In other words, we're not going to just let Trump run wild over us and name whatever crazy person he wants to name, but that's, that the public will basically help keep him in check, and that will keep the Senate less inclined to say that they need to keep him in check by rejecting his appointments. So perhaps that will help them. But I do think that's possible Hegseth is next, as I'll get to in just a moment. Well, first I'm going to cover Bondi. So, Bondi brought up the Biden-Ukraine corruption in the Trump impeachment trial. People were not ready for that truth yet, but now, yes. Hopefully, Maggie. Clinton, Bush, and Obama made recess appointments. Trump could do the same and avoid a lot the public doesn't care. The media hate would last 1 to 2 news cycles. That's 100% true. People move on to other topics very quickly. Zach Whiteside, welcome to the following, Zach. God bless you, brother. Gaetz dropping out is a bad move. He gave into the pressure and will continue to falsely accuse people unless Pam Bondi is more hardcore. It's an L. Well, we're going to look at Pam Bondi in just a moment. Matt Gaetz adds to his attorney office in Southern District of New York. It's not going to happen. Maybe, I don't know. DeSantis can name him to replace Rubio too. That's what I mentioned. I thought that'd be cool. Please send me a following package. Oh, buddy. If you became a member of the following, I assume you're packing already. Being late is also known as Mormon Standard Time. There you go. You missed third person Thursday. You must refer to yourself as the leader. No, Joe is not the leader. Joe is Joe. In third person for the rest of the stream, I don't make the rules. You see, I would have respected this a lot more if you wrote, Tyler doesn't make the rules. But how's Joe supposed to take you seriously now? Joe's we've not high and tight like Trump reminds me of Goonies. Hey, you guys. Joe doesn't remember that. Hypocrisy is called politics or one and the same. I'm not upset, just never heard of that appetite. Oh, well. This video out there. This video of him like partying with people who look, let's just say, younger than him. Not like teenage, not like preteens or something like that, but he looks like Joe hasn't seen it in a while, but back when the scandal first broke in 2022, Greenberg was convicted of making similar claims. Joe covered this yesterday. How's Lindsey Graham keep his ladybug shit hidden? Tight underwear. What happens when a cousin marries a Yekir Chuppah starts exactly 1 hour? Very nice. That's an old joke. Okay. All right. Let's go through a couple of things here. People who are being confused about this whole thing, one of them includes DC Drano, famous, a popular right-wing political analyst. Here's why I like Trump's new AG pick, Pam Bondi. Not only is she experienced, but I look to where someone stands during times of difficulty. When Trump was being impeached with a perfect Ukraine phone call, Pam was brought in to defend him as legal counsel. Not only was that a courageous move by her, but she also won the case. When it was unpopular to stand with Trump, Pam stood strongly beside him. She'll make a great U.S. Attorney General. I responded to this. I'm like, yeah, okay, that's nice. That's nice. But a truer test would be the second impeachment. First impeachment, which I totally wrote that like I had a cold, was pre-COVID. Maybe I wrote that's good for pre-COVID. And Trump looked like he'd dominate the 2020 election. I want to know more about where she was when Trump was being brutized by rhinos in December 2020 on J6 issues. Because that's when you know your friends. When he's the most powerful person and people are throwing arrows at him and she's willing to stand beside him, that just means that she thinks he's going to win, and she recognizes he's not going to be convicted by the Senate anyway, so she can just look heroic by standing with him. It's far greater test when he's being impeached as a lame duck president at the end of his first term. That was I'm much more curious about what her position was about the whole J6 thing and about the election integrity. That's a bigger question. And I agree with Stephen Douglas. I'm reserving judgments. Jeb Bush congratulating, but Jeb is a Floridian, isn't he? I know the Bushes tend to come from. Wasn't he the governor of Florida for a while? So he probably has a connection to her that was forged through time rather than necessarily because they're politically alive. I don't know, Q Revere. Maybe she was. Maybe she was. I simply just don't know. But I'm trying to learn as much as I can. Green Lives Matter is reporting Pam Bondi knows where the bodies are buried, and she'll be in a position to do major damage as AG. Here are some of her best moments. Bondi expertly laid out how Joe and Hunter Biden were using a Ukrainian energy company as a money laundering pay-for-play scheme while Joe was VP. Not only this, but he had Hunter Biden help siphon money out of the CCP while in China. Biden was the point man in Iraq during his VP tenure and set up business deals in that exact country through his close family members. All those crimes can be found for anyone you see on Hunter Biden's laptop. And her quote is, as a career prosecutor and former attorney general of Florida, I fought corruption. I know what it looks like, whether it's done by people wearing pinstripe suits or in orange jumpsuits. Is there like a video of this? I think this is it.
Prosecutor and former attorney general of Florida, I fought corruption, and I know what it looks like, whether it's done by people wearing pinstripe suits or orange jumpsuits. At the Democrats' convention, we were told to look at Joe Biden as the model of integrity. But when you look at his 47-year career in politics, the people who benefited are his family members, not the American people. Let's take a closer look. We all know about Joe's son, Hunter Biden. A corrupt Ukrainian oligarch put Hunter on the board of his gas company, even though he had no experience in Ukraine or in the energy sector.
Couldn't even speak language.
Yet he was paid millions to do nothing. He only had one qualification that mattered. He was the son of the man in charge of distributing U.S. aid to Ukraine. And recently reported information revealed that a few months after Hunter Biden joined that corrupt company's board, the Obama-Biden State Department began doing business with them, even when it remained under investigation for corruption. And it gets worse. That very same company was being investigated by a Ukrainian prosecutor. Joe Biden, the Vice President of the United States, threatened to withhold aid to Ukraine unless that same prosecutor was fired. And then he was fired. Hunter only resigned from that board just before his dad announced his campaign for president. Now let's talk about China. Fact: Joe Biden flew to China on Air Force Two with Hunter along for the ride. They said he was just there as a family member, but we know that's untrue. In Beijing, Hunter didn't just go sightseeing. He had meetings with his Chinese bank partners. Hunter even arranged for his dad to meet with one of the partners. 10 days later, those Chinese communist bankers approved millions to go to Hunter's firm. And those bankers work for the Chinese Communist Party, which oppresses their people, cheated American workers for decades, and covered up a deadly virus.
You can see that when she gets
To
angry.
this day, Hunter controls.
She goes into like She-Hulk mode, right? Is it just me? Am I the only one who's seeing her go green with anger? Like she's ready to go. She's ready to go. Am I the only? Is it just me? Is it just me?
A 10% stake in that firm. And Joe Biden's done more than look the other way on China. He said, the Chinese aren't our competition. Come on, man. They're not bad folks. Come on, Joe. Talk to the folks in Middle America who lost countless jobs to China while your son was getting rich with them. But there's more. Fact: there have been numerous press reports that have shown other close Biden family members benefited from Joe's 47-year political career. Joe Biden was point person on Iraq. The president of a construction firm met with Biden's team in the White House, and then who did they hire to build thousands of houses in Iraq? Joe Biden's close family member, who, you guessed it, had no experience in the industry and no experience in Iraq. A company official bragged.
So she spent a lot of time investigating all of the corruption of the Bidens, clearly. Which that's a good sign, right? I mean, that's definitely a good sign. I got more clips of her.
These criminals made one very big mistake.
This is her talking about illegal migrants.
They wound up in Polk County. And I'll tell you, it's bad enough in one thing to profit from poisoning others, but it's another when you bring drugs from Mexico into our country, California, Texas, Georgia, and end up in our state and do it with impunity. Because when you're in this country illegally and you're doing things illegally, I want to tell you, and you wind up in Polk County, Grady Judd is going to find you. The DEA is going to help them. And my statewide prosecutors are going to lock you up for as long as we can.
And we're going to enjoy it.
Grady's
And
Grady's
each of these
great.
defendants are looking.
That's Grady behind her. There's a clip of Grady from Polk County basically talking about how, like, yeah, any of these people who come in here, these radicals break into your house, that's why we have a Second Amendment. That's why we have a Second Amendment. Don't worry.
At 30 years in Florida State Prison for conspiracy to traffic drugs.
So that's another clip of her. Let's bring one more.
Well, I was a prosecutor. I was a homicide prosecutor for 18 years. I was Florida's first female attorney general, and I was special advisor to Donald Trump, Office of White House Counsel, but most importantly, I'm his friend. And I was in that White House, and we all know he surrounded himself with a lot of brilliant women. How many women here tonight support Donald Trump? And backstage, look at these beautiful women sitting behind me. Sorry, guys, in the front row. Donald Trump. That was the greatest gift Mark Cuban could give Donald Trump, I think, by saying something so ignorant and stupid. So I have a message for Mark Cuban. From all of us here tonight, underestimate us. This is going to be fun.
Nice. Nice. Well said. Well said. Well said indeed. And the other one I wanted to show you is this. Here's the best sign. And I'm telling you right now, I'm still reserving judgment. We'll see what happens. We'll see where she goes. You know, there were moments when Bill Barr looked really good. There were moments he looked really good when he's like announcing that he's whole special prosecutor and they're appointing and they're going to do a whole investigation. And we saw how that worm turned. So I'm reserving judgment on Pam Bondi. But if you're hopeful, if you want the best way to gain hope is to listen to what your enemies are saying. Listen to what your enemies are saying. And your enemies, when they heard about Pam Bondi, they got scared. They got scared.
Pam Bondi is exactly what I was saying in the last segment that we should all fear because she's competent. We may not agree with her ideologically, but she actually knows how to do this job. So if anyone on the Democratic side or anyone who cared about liberty or justice was thinking, well, maybe Matt Gaetz will screw this up and that'll give us some time. No, Pam Bondi knows what she's doing. She knows what she's doing about immigration. Remember, Florida is one of those states that's been very aggressive about migrants and deportation and moving people to different states and everything else like that. Florida has enacted all sorts of rules and laws to curtail students and what they can do on campuses and finding legal justifications for manipulating education money. She is a dangerous and effective pick, and that's frankly worse than what we would have got with Matt Gaetz, even with the deplorable moral background that he has.
Yeah, and I want to discuss that with a little more depth with both of you, including her record on civil rights, LGBTQ rights, and other issues that are front and center at the DOJ, and which we know were also big campaign issues this cycle.
So there you go. So they're kind of nervous about her. That should make you happy. That makes me happy. But again, we have to see. You have to see. If she stood with him during the J6 after the second impeachment, like I'm wondering, like, why would he have a, I'm just to play devil's advocate against Pam Bondi. My question is, why was she not the attorney standing by his side for the second impeachment? First impeachment, there's a lot to gain. Second impeachment, there ain't, other than this is what's right. This is what's just. I mean, you get compensated also. But as far as politically, there's nothing to gain. And it's potentially political suicide, which could be why she stepped out. She could be like, look, I sympathize with you, but it's political suicide for me to stand beside you. Which that doesn't show the type of backbone I'd hope to see. I don't know. I have no idea. But she was not part of that second team as far as I know. And if you want to have concerns, that's the reason I have concerns. You want to have confidence? Well, the left seems to be afraid of her. MSNBC seems to be afraid of her. The political elites seem to be afraid of her. She does say the right things. Is she going to be what we were hoping for from Matt Gaetz, or is she going to end up being Bill Barr? There's no way to know. There's no way to know at this point in time. But we'll see. We'll see. Matt will be appointed special counsel. No, solidifying the power behind the AG. We got that. Bondi might be loyal, but does she understand what's going on? If not Gaetz, we need a Cash or Paxton or Bailey. If he wanted a woman, Harmeet Dillon. So top of my list was Andrew Bailey, because this is a guy who had very much America First interests and has displayed that as an attorney general for the state of Missouri. He is Missouri's top attorney today. He's testified before Congress and he's been held, brought before Congress, talk about the corruption and issues, I think, with immigration. And he's the one who went after, I'm pretty sure he's the attorney who went after that corrupt DA. Andrew Bailey has displayed him, has marked himself as arguably the most America First attorney general that we've seen. Ken Paxton, similarly. The reason I would have when I put a list out right before Bondi was announced, I put out a list where I had Bailey, Paxton, number 2, and then Todd Blanche, who is being nominated to be assistant AG. the deputy AG, that I had him third because I'm like, I don't know. I mean, Trump knows him, so, and he seemed to be competent. But I did not have Harmeet Dillon there, and I've never spoken to Harmeet. I don't know if she knows who I am. I think she knows who I am. She probably knows who I am, but I've never spoken to Harmeet. I just get a vibe from her that's rhino. And it's hard to tell who's a rhino. It's going to be harder and harder to tell who's a rhino over the next couple of years with how nice they are to Trump, because everyone who's a rhino sucks up to power, even if it's Trump. So when people smell his power ascending and they start all converging on him, you sort of need to ask yourself, okay, where were they when he was down and out? Where were they? And forget about where were they with respect to loyalty to Trump, because to me, that's really secondary. But where were they on raising these issues when it was against their interests to raise these issues, either politically, financially, or otherwise? That's what people are showing you who they are. So, yeah. And that's just a vibe I've gotten. It's just a vibe. I could be completely wrong on her. A lot of people like her. A lot of people love her. A lot of people love her. And you all who love her, and I don't dislike her. I just feel as if you're asking me questions about Vivek, you need to be asking me questions about Harmeet. Not because they both happen. I think that they might both do this. I think they might both be Indians. It has nothing to do with that at all. Because I love Kash Patel. I love, and I'm assuming he's Indian. But it's a matter of there's just a certain vibe I get. It's a certain vibe of like that of political shrewdness that displaces a hunger based on political shrewdness rather than a hunger based on justice, morality, and what's right. And it's much tougher to tell when the people who have justice and morality and are standing for healthy objectives are in power, because all the clingers on start clinging. FYI, she's the same age as Tim Walz, who is probably both. They're both in their 50s, I assume. Both Harmeet and Pam. Moshe's torn Joe on one. I don't know what that symbol is. 4D chess can't always be the answer, but the lack of fight from DJT, Donald J. Trump, MG, Matt Gaetz comes off as odd to me as the biggest MAGA fighters. Having the placement ready same day seems pre-planned. And this is something I meant to touch on. I forgot to. I appreciate you bringing this up, Bogey. This is obviously not something that was a surprise to Donald Trump today. You do not come up with name and go through the whole thing of like, this is the replacement for Matt Gaetz 5 hours after Matt Gaetz steps down, unless Donald Trump was well aware that this was coming for a good 48 hours. Because he had to sit down and talk to her, whatever. It's just sort of. Now, maybe you could say maybe he vetted all, like he had his top three choices, and like, Matt Gaetz was number one, and Pam Bondi was number two, and that when Matt called him up and said, "Hey, I'm going to be making this announcement," so he said, "Are you sure? Yeah, I'm positive. Okay, fine. Let me talk to Pam. All right, I wish you best, and we'll figure something out for you in the administration, and make your announcement. What are you going to say?" And they talk about what they're going to say, he's going to say, and then they're like, "Okay, well, you got to do what's best for you." Hang up the phone. Say, "Pam, guess what? Matt's out. You're up next. Do you want the job?" It really would not necessarily take that long if he did this whole screening process and had ideas for who he wanted for AG. He probably had a very short list before the election. So, some word in my regular chat was blocked from super chatting it, but check it out if you get a chance. Some word in my regular chat was blocked from super chatting it, but check it out if you get a chance. What? This was 11 minutes ago. Am I going to be able to find that? Oh, I'm going to be able to. What? I don't know if I'm going to find that. I'm not sure. I don't know how to find it. Some word. John Mansell. John. Oh, jeez. No, I can't find it now. I don't. Wait. Oh, I think it comes up later. Okay. I'm not sold on her any more liberal tears. Perhaps. Okay. Grady Judd's one of my favorite humans. He's awesome. She was the first Republican female U.S. AG. Yeah. Google blocks my chat. I tried to say that the Scottish Disney movie is also a browser that blocks pop-ups and videos that play in the background. I get told about Bravo all the time, if that's what you're referring to. Is that a Scottish Disney movie, Bravo? A positive Bondi or Gaetz that she's more prosecutorial experience than him. Yep, that's true. What hacks me off is the rhinos pearl clutching over Gaetz. Yet most of them voted for Rachel Levine and all the other Biden degenerates. It should hack you off. It should. John's not wrong. I had to figure out how to say the DE. Yeah, well, we all had to figure out how to say that one. we all had to figure out that dance. Save that for later. Save that for later. Okay. Maybe we'll come back to that. I want to get to Pete Hesgath. So, with him stepping down and the Democrats training their guns on Pete Hegseth. Pete Hegseth. People are wondering, is he going to withstand the scrutiny? Because there's all sorts of allegations about an incident involving SA. It goes back to 2017. Trying to figure out how much detail to give you about this report. I actually have the report that was initially filed, and we can come to our own conclusions about what the story is here. When you read this report, I was able to read this report as a hardcore lefty and as a hardcore, as Hegseth's mother would want to read it. And depending on how you read it, you're going to take a completely different read of it. I expect that most of you are going to look at it as this is fully exonerating and this is not anything terrible. But we're going to look at the report. But in case some of you are wondering, so Pete Hegseth was named by Trump as his next Secretary of Defense. Obviously, a very prestigious appointment. He's currently a Fox host. He's got 2 Bronze Stars, served in 2 tours. Unlike Tim Walz, he actually has carried a weapon onto a battlefield and shown cojones of steel, and is highly educated, very well trained. I think he attained the rank of captain, if not higher. I read captain, but I saw someone else in my chat once said major. So he's well, he's not a general. He's not some TV host, the way they love portraying him as like some sort of joke appointment. That being said, the question is whether or not there's some sort of issue with an incident that happened with him in 2017. We should take a look at that moment, at that incident as it's reported, and so we can anticipate what we're going to hear more about in the next 60 days and start to understand it better. The Mediaite obtains full police report on Pete Hegseth SA allegation. A police report on the allegation of the SA against Pete Hegseth, Fox News star nominated by Donald Trump to serve as Secretary of Defense, was obtained by Mediaite on Wednesday and contains graphic details of the 27 encounter. Let's go look at the report. This is the 24-page report. I'm not going to go through the entire report. I will include a link to it in locals. In fact, I'm going to do that right now. I'm going to put it in the locals chat for any of you who want to download it and go through it line by line. This is the police report on Pete Hegseth S.A. allegations. Okay. So those of you want to read along, that's fine. But I'm actually going to start at the end because we're going to hear his version of it. Well, let's start from, because there's different reports, different people. Apparently, here's what if you want to know what the left is going to say gives this story legs. Because look, whenever you have a story like this, the first place we start with is the left is full of crap. They're always lying. They're looking to besmirch when they can, especially someone who they have a concern is going to basically stand up for America rather than whatever deviant objectives they have for our country. So whatever they say is basically crap. That's going to be the knee-jerk starting point for anyone who's MAGA whenever someone comes out and there's a claim against them. And I understand that. The only reason I really understand that is because it seems to be invariably true of virtually everyone. And that they will judge them by a completely different yardstick than they'll judge anyone from the left. And that they're going to basically try and paint them and smear them as being terrible, awful, evil human beings who are disturbed and dangerous and deviant, while at the same time they'll stand alongside the most deviant people on the planet and say, no, they're really good people. So we know that their objectives are flawed. We know that they're liars. We know that they'll literally make stuff up. And whenever someone makes an allegation, all of a sudden that's taken as gospel, even if that allegation is patently false and transparently stupid. So I'm with you on all of that. That being said, that doesn't mean that everyone who's on the right side of the aisle is free of genuine taint, right? I mean, there are going to be amongst us some people who are genuinely evil, genuinely twisted or sick individuals, or some who may not be in general twisted and sick, but have done some things which are morally reprehensible and or illegal. That's just the reality. You have a large group of people, some are going to be amongst them. So you can't just say, oh, okay, because the left is saying it's not true. So let's see, you sort of have to look at their claims and what legitimacy, if any, do they seem to carry? That's how I approach. That's my mindset whenever I'm looking at allegations raised against a political figure on the right. I want to see, like, okay, what's the legitimacy you have behind this? I know if I showed you similar legitimacy, you'd just say, no, Joe, no, you just hate my guy. So, but I'll give you the courtesy of saying, okay, what's your evidence? What do you have? So, I'm going to start on page 18 of the report because that's where we get to the real back and forth perspectives on this. On October 13th, 2017, I spoke with X via telephone, providing me with the following information. It stated he was at the Hyatt Regency Hotel and Spa with Jane Doe. Jane Doe is the complainant here. And he and Jane Doe are very close and want to be with his family. Doe had business at the hotel. On October 7th, so this was 6 days earlier, Doe was busy with the conference. Blank was in the hotel room. Blank is a friend of Jane Doe, who there's text messages they show back and forth, which they supposedly that she basically complained that she'd been assaulted like the day after, or hours after she had an encounter with Hegseth. So the timing of these complaints, to my mind, gives a lot more legitimacy to a complaint, because if someone's complaining about it a week later, 2 weeks later, 6 months later, 20 years later, like Christine Ford Blasey, I'm like, you're full of crap. Why is it that there's no contemporaneous report if there was actual assault? someone gets assaulted, you would think there'd be some sort of report, comment to a friend, something like that. And over here, we actually have those things that are coming up relatively close in time to the incident. Some cases seemingly as close in time as one would imagine it would happen. Does that mean that Hegseth committed a crime? No, it does not. It does not. She could be someone who is, as they say, backwana loco. Definitely could be. I don't know. We don't know who Jane Doe is. She literally could be like one of these crazy people who makes a TikTok video saying they're shaving their head off. They're shaving their hair off. We don't know. She could be literally like a lunatic. But at least like this way, like as far as like, giving any sort of credibility to a claim, you have to admit that it gives some credibility that she goes to the police shortly thereafter. On October 7th, Jane Doe was busy at the conference, and friend was in the hotel room. Friend stated Jane Doe had gone to the hotel room at approximately 5 p.m. while on a break. Blank said that Jane Doe did not seem intoxicated. So this is 5 o'clock on October 7th, 2017. Doe had left the room and went back to work. Blank stated Jane Doe was in communication with him via text messages, stated he fell asleep and woke up on October 8th, 2017, approximately midnight. They texted more, and Jane Doe told him that she was at the bar and out with the woman from the conference. At approximately 12:30, this is on the early morning of October 8th, Jane Doe stopped texting. He was worried about Jane Doe. He was reading the news and made him even more worried for Jane Doe's safety. At approximately 2 in the morning, he stated that he left the room and went to look for Jane Doe at Knuckles Bar. Blank stated that there was no one at the bar. When he arrived in the scene, he goes back to his room. At approximately 4 in the morning, Jane Doe arrived at the hotel room, accessed the room on her own, and had used the key card reader to get in. Jane Doe told Blank that she must have fallen asleep. Jane Doe was apologetic. Noticed that Jane Doe did not have a hard time walking and was not slurring her words, so she's not drunk. On Wednesday, October 11th, Jane Doe told Blank that she was essayed. So this is 4 days later. Jane Doe did not tell Blank many details. I don't know if that's her husband. I don't know who that is, who this blanked out person is. On October 18th, I spoke with Jane Doe via telephone. Jane Doe told me that she has additional information. Jane Doe stated she remembered asking Hegseth if he had a condom when the incident occurred. Jane Doe stated she had been suffering from nightmares and memory loss since the incident. October 18th, I spoke to Blank. He wanted to know that Jane Doe would cry secretly and very little energy out of the blue. She would cry. I assume this is Jane Doe's husband. Jane Doe had also brought new clothes because she wanted to make sure that her body is completely covered. October 20th, I contacted Jane Doe via telephone. I asked Jane Doe if she was willing to participate in a pretext phone call that involved Hegseth. Jane Doe stated that she did not want to participate. Instead, it would be too hard for her to talk to Hegseth. Jane Doe began to cry while on the phone. October 20th, I responded to Hyatt Regency and contacted Blank, and I asked him if I could review the business camera locations. He escorted me to a room located adjacent to the front lobby and gave me access to the camera system. I reviewed the video surveillance video with it. It was determined that the video timestamp was slow by 15 minutes. I asked Blank if there were reports of the disturbance that occurred late on October 7th, 17, the early hours of October 8th. He references the hotel's security log and located documentation of a disturbance between two individuals near a pool, because this is what I should have gone back to this. I didn't realize I was going to start there. So apparently there was first an incident at the pool when police came there. I really should go back to the beginning. Dagnabbit. Let's go back. Like a nurse at Kaiser Permanente reported suspicious circumstance to occur at the Hyatt Hotel at One Old Golf Course Road in Monterey after a patient came in requesting an SA assault exam. If you're wondering what that is, that's an R kit. An R kit. So the victim here, Jane Doe, came in to the Hyatt Hotel. A patient came in requesting, the nurse at this hospital said that this woman came in asking for an R kit. Patient was allegedly assaulted at the Hyatt Hotel between October 7th and October 8th. So on October 12th at approximately 12:23 hours, I received a telephone call from the nurse. She informed me the patient comes to the center requesting an SA examination, said the patient was to be identified as Jane Doe, said that Doe was in Monterey between October 7th and October 8th, staying at One Old Golf Course Road in the Hyatt Hotel for business, and was at the Hyatt consuming alcohol with co-workers. Said Doe was not sure, but believes that something may have been slipped into her drink as she cannot remember most of the night's events. So that's, if you're Pete Hegseth, you're like, yeah, okay. You don't remember most of the night's events? Okay. Blank said that Doe remembers being in one of co-workers' hotel rooms and remembers being sprayed. Blank said Doe could not remember whether or not any penetration occurred, believes that she was assaulted at that time. Blank said that Doe had then returned to her home in wherever and had come to the Kaiser Permanente on October 12th to request an essay exam. Blank said that she was reporting this incident as she was a mandated reporter. Said that she was going to refer to Doe to an emergency hospital room for examination. I asked this nurse if Doe would like to speak with Monterey PD concerning the incident or should be willing to come back to Monterey PD to discuss it. Blank said Doe is not sure what she wants to do at this point and not even want to disclose the suspect's name. Blank said that Doe simply wanted the exam done at this point. I informed Blank that Doe had the right to go to a hospital and have an exam conducted anonymously if she so wished. I informed Blank that I would document her statements in this incident within a suspicious circumstances report. I informed Blank of the case number and informed her to tell Doe that she'd like to speak with the Monterey PD. Call this number. I recommend this case be forwarded to investigations for the review. And that's the first part. Supplemental report dated October 13th. Police officer supplemental report documents an alleged essay of Jane Doe. On October 12th at approximately 6 p.m., I was dispatched to a phone call for an alleged essay. The reporting party was ER Nurse Blank, was reporting Doe had come into the ER, requested an SART exam be done. Again, that's an R-kit thing. Did not have any other information. I contacted the PD. Officer of the PD contacted me later in the evening, advised me he'd spoken to Jane Doe regarding the essay, gave me the following statement in summary. So Doe was at the Hyatt Hotel in Monterey on October 7th, attending a Republican Women's Conference. She's drinking at the hotel after the conference and remembers approaching Pete Hegseth, who was now a speaker at the convention, and commented how she did not appreciate how he treated women. This is what she said. She claims she went over to Hegseth and said, I don't like how you talk to women. Doe then remembers leaving the hospitality room and going to the hotel room. She seems to suspect that Hegseth remembers his dog tag necklace. Doe then remembers Hegseth spraying on her stomach. Hegseth told Doe to clean it up. Doe then found her way back to her own hotel room. So, okay. For more information on the case, Officer Blank and the police court also informed me that Doe would be performing a full SART, and SART nurses had collected the dress, panties that were worn in the night of the alleged assault. The dress and panties had not been washed since the incident. At approximately 2100 hours, that's 9 p.m., I contacted Hyatt and gave me the following information. Hegseth and Doe were attending the same conference. They both checked into the hotel. Hegseth was in building 5, room 528. Doe was in building whatever. Said the conference took place in the ballroom and conference center, and there was no video surveillance that would have shown both parties together. On October 13th, at 9:42, I received a copy of police officer investigation, which says that Hegseth and Doe were at the hotel attending the women's convention. Doe was at the party event in the presidential suite around 23:30, around 11:30, October 7th. Doe had been drinking, and the events were blurred and lacked specifics in a fluid sequence of events. Doe remembers Hegseth preventing her from leaving and somehow ended up on top of her. Well, this is a new detail here. Here's a new little wrinkle. Doe remembers Hegseth spraying her stomach. Doe does not remember what happened after that, other than that she ended up back in her hotel room. And then she goes to get this kit, and they collect the dress. So what we get from all of this, what I'm getting from all of this, is there was some sort of incident where they're yelling at each other, and the next thing you know, she's in his hotel room, and she doesn't know any details about it. Now, from what I understand, Hegseth admits that she basically tried blackmailing him for money, and he gave him some money. And apparently there was some sort of NDA that was signed, that somehow this NDA, I don't know if it was violated. I don't know what's happened to it. But basically, lesson number one is if you find some woman who's yelling at you for something, even if it's consensual, maybe move on to the next one. Another lesson is maybe just don't bang something that moves that you find attractive. Maybe that's another lesson. I don't know. Because at the very least, it definitely seems as if there was some sort of encounter there's some sort of physical encounter, which Hegseth claims was consensual and she claims was not. Now, I don't know how she can say, go a little further here. She said that she was introduced to keynote speaker Hegseth on October 7th. Hegseth's a contributor. Jane Doe stayed at the banquet on October 7th had gone longer than she expected. Jane Doe stated she had gone to the after party at the president's suite. The president of the Federation was blank. Jane Doe stated that she had consumed a small amount of champagne that at the after party. Jane Doe does not remember drinking hard alcohol. Jane Doe stated Hegseth was at the after party. Several people had attended the after party, and people were coming and going from the suite to suite. Jane Doe stated most other members wanted to talk with her because she was an advocate and was very busy talking with members of the Federation. Okay, maybe. Jane Doe stated that she remembered going to Knuckle Sports Bar. Knuckle Sports Bar is a bar that's attached to a hotel. Jane Doe stated that she was with a group of women who had attended the bar. Jane Doe stated that's when things got fuzzy. Jane Doe remembered being at the bar with blank, blank, and Hegseth. Was also at the bar. Jane Doe remembered being handed one drink by the bartender, but does not remember how many alcoholic beverages she had. Jane Doe stated that during the evening that she was in contact with Blank via text messages. Text messages between Jane Doe and Blank were exchanged throughout the night. Jane Doe stated she had consumed much more than normal alcoholic beverages throughout the day. Doe stated she observed Hegseth acting inappropriately with the women in the conference. Hegseth would rub the women on their legs, and Jane Doe thought his actions were inappropriate. Jane Doe had texted Blank that Hegseth was giving off a creeper vibe. The woman thought Hegseth was dreamy and wanted pictures with Hegseth. Jane Doe stated that she had taken a picture with Hegseth early in the day because people were commenting. Jane Doe stated that she remembered walking out of the bar and assumed Hegseth followed her because she argued with Hegseth near the pool. The argument was about Hegseth's actions with the women at the conference. Jane Doe remembered Hegseth tell her that he was a nice guy. Jane Doe stated the next memory she had was that she was in an unknown room. So 1 minute she's arguing with him, and the next thing she knows, she's in an unknown room. Jane Doe did not know where she was and how she got to the room. Hegseth was in the room with her. Doe remembered having her phone, and Hegseth inquired to whom Jane Doe was texting. Hegseth took her phone from her hands. Doe stated she got up and tried to leave the room, but Hegseth blocked the door with his body. Jane Doe remembered saying no a lot. Jane Doe stated she did not remember much else. Jane Doe's next memory was that she was on a bed or a couch. Hegseth was over her. Hegseth's dog tails were hovering over her face. Hegseth was bare-chested. But Jane Doe does not know if his shirt was completely off. Jane Doe did not notice any tattoos, scars, or marks on his body. Jane Doe stated she had seen Hegseth fully nude during this incident. The next memory Doe has was Hegseth spraying her stomach. Hegseth threw a towel on her and said, "Are you okay?" Last memory Doe has was walking into a room and getting into bed with whomever, I assume her husband. Jane Doe stated she does not remember how she got back to her room. Jane Doe stated she woke up the next morning, took a shower before going to work. The incident involved Hegseth did not dawn on Jane Doe until she was home on Monday. So when did she get the kit? Then on Monday, Jane Doe had sex with, I assume, her husband. A sexual encounter with Blank triggered a memory incident with Hegseth. Jane Doe stated she used a condom when she had sex with Blank because who knows what. Approximately 4 days later, she went to the hospital because she believed she was assaulted by Hegseth. So, now this is taking a little bit of a different turn. So she's going to the hospital 4 days after the fact. And she said she had showered daily. Jane Doe stated she had discharge and was diagnosed with bacterial vaginosis. Based on my training, I know that BV can be caused by having multiple partners or having a new partner. There are other factors. So now, as I'm looking at this a little more closely, so she didn't go that night. She goes 4 days later after she's had encounters with other men. Yeah. Yeah. This is losing a lot of the legs that I thought it had. This is losing a lot of the legs. This really could have been a shakedown. Or it could be that she was covering up for her infidelity with her husband. You're going 4 days later. After, and you can't remember the details as to how you get there. I'm starting to think that Hegseth here, more likely than not, I don't think that this is a bad report for him. I really don't. I think this is a pretty good report for him. The more I'm reading this report, maybe I'm misreading something here. The more I'm misreading this report. So, okay. So basically, this is what we get from this whole police report. She's at this conference. She gets mad at Hegseth that she feels he's touching other people. She yells at him. She can't remember anything else that happens. Likely what happened was he ended up talking her into bed. We have no reason to assume that she didn't consent to it because she doesn't remember what happened. So we have no reason to assume that she didn't consent to it. And then then she goes to the police and she's now got to explain it to her husband as to what's happening here. And oh no, it was rape. Oh no, it was assault. I'm feeling pretty good about this one, about standing with Seth on this one, especially if you tell me this is the only incident of someone complaining something like this. I'm feeling pretty good that this is basically someone who basically said, hey, this seems like a good time. And then for one reason or another, whether it's for money, whether it was to preserve her marriage or whatever, that she ends up going to get this kit done 4 days later. So she got triggered later. You can't remember anything about how you got there? Who the heck poisoned, are you claiming that he's the one who put something in your drink? There's a lot. This report raises more questions for me about Jane Doe than it does about Hegseth. That's my final take on this. That's where I'm at on this. The more I read this report, the more questions I have about Jane Doe than I have about Hegseth. Because she doesn't even deny, for all she knows, she agreed. Later in the report, there's even a thing saying that when you see him walking in the hall, neither of them look intoxicated. I want to find that. I want to see if I can find that. They actually include text messages here. It's a little hard for me to figure out what these text messages are actually saying. Here she's saying, do you know Pete Hegseth? Name's not familiar. Who is he? He's a Fox contributor, I guess. He's TDB, mini TDB. It's apparently, I mean, the men who tried to have sex in my way. What? He doesn't look remotely familiar. Apparently, the women know who he is. He wears a ring on his pointer finger. It creeps me out. Okay. This is what she's texting, and all of a sudden now, so hold on a second, let's look at the timing here. So 12:25 a.m. She says she's going to the bar. This is after they purportedly had their encounter at 2 o'clock in the morning. And now she's making excuses about her phone being dead. Yeah. 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 Let me see if I can find any text in here. I don't think I can find text in this thing. Can I do a search in here? I remember seeing something. No, this is what it was. This is what I'd seen earlier. I reviewed the video surveillance video. It was determined that the video stand was slow by 15 minutes. I asked if there were reports of disturbance that occurred late October 7th or early hours October 8th. References to hotel security log and located documentation of disturbance between two individuals near a pool. Stated the night audit employees that had been working that night was currently at work. While waiting for blank, I found video surveillance footage that showed Jane Doe, Hegseth, and an unknown female walk into the hotel lobby and walk towards knuckle bars together. The camera timestamp was 10/7/17 at 23:58, so it's right before midnight. We were walking straight on their own. Blank arrived on the scene. I showed the video of Jane Doe and Hegseth walk into the lobby. They remembered the two, providing me the following information: that he was working the front counter at the hotel on October 7th. He was working the night shift. October 8th at approximately 1:30 in the morning, two separate guests in Building 4 had called the front desk to complain about a couple near the pool causing a disturbance and being loud. Contacted the security, but she was busy, stated that he left the lobby and headed to the pool. Upon arrival, contacted Jane Doe and Hegseth near the pool. Pools located near Building 4 and 5, stated Hegseth began to curse at blank when he contacted Jane Doe and Hegseth. Hegseth told blank that he had freedom of speech. Jane Doe intervened and told blank they were Republicans and apologized for Hegseth's actions. Stated Jane Doe placed her hand on and arm on the back of Hegseth and escorted him toward Building 4 and 5. Blank stated he watched Hegseth and Jane Doe disappear into the area of Building 5, and blank ran back to the lobby. Blank stated Hegseth was very intoxicated. Stated Jane Doe was not intoxicated, standing on her own, and was very coherent. I continued to search of the video surveillance footage. I located additional footage of Jane Doe and Hegseth together. Video showed Jane Doe and Hegseth walking from the inner entry exit towards Knuckles Bar. The video showed Doe and Hegseth walking together with arms locked together. Hegseth seemed to be talking and Jane Doe was smiling. Both did not have an unsteady gait. Hegseth and Jane Doe are seen walking out of the lobby, still locked in arms and headed towards the pool. The timestamp was October 8th at approximately 1:15 in the morning. There was no video footage inside Knuckles Bar near the pool. Yeah, this is a shakedown. Someone remembers Jane Doe consumed a glass of champagne and some vodka at the after party. Jane Doe did not seem intoxicated but had a buzz. Jane Doe and Hegseth stated Jane Doe were on their own group conversation while at Knuckles Bar. This Jane Doe, I'm sorry. She seems like the more I'm reading this, the more I feel like she's a viper. Did not know Jane Doe and Hegseth left the bar together and stated that Jane Doe had one alcoholic beverage at the bar. Stated Jane Doe did not seem intoxicated to the point where she would not be able to care for her own safety. Jane Doe was coherent. Yeah, this is weak sauce. During the conversation, Blank stated Hegseth placed his hand on Blank's knee. Blank made it clear that his hand on her knee was not acceptable. Despite touching, Blank stated she was not uncomfortable, and Blank stated Hegseth had invited her back to his hotel room, stated she politely declined the invitation. Blank stated she gained the attention of Jane Doe and had Jane Doe become a crotch blocker. Crotch blocker is a street term used to describe someone's actions used to prevent someone from having sex. By having Jane Doe join Blank and Hegseth's conversation, Blank was hoping that Jane Doe's presence would detour Hegseth's attempt to have sex with her. Who cares? How's that relevant? The bar began to close and Blank left the bar. Say a group of people left the bar together. Yeah, I'm not seeing much here. I'm sorry. Maybe it's me. Like I said, it gets very repetitive. That's why I didn't want to go through all 24 pages of this. So here's a conversation with Hegseth. Let's get his take on it. I contact Hegseth via telephone. Hegseth provided me the following information. He's a keynote speaker on October 7, 2017. Conference fundraiser was held at the Hyatt Regency Spa Hotel. Hegseth was a guest at the hotel. After the conference's fundraiser, there was an after party in the hotel suites. There was also a birthday celebration. So this is the part we should be focusing on here. This is Hegseth's claim about the story. She's very foggy about what happened. Here's what he says happened. Alcohol is provided at the after party. Hegseth stated he did not drink hard alcohol but consumed beer at the after party. The individual that attended the after party were people he had never met before. Later in the evening, Hegseth stated a group of individuals went to the hotel bar. Hegseth stated that he talked with several different people at the bar. Hegseth stated no one at the bar was blacked out drunk. Hegseth stated he remembered being led from the bar by someone. Hegseth stated he was buzzed but not intoxicated. Hegseth did not know who was leading him from the bar. Hegseth described the person's clothing. That person wore blank. Hegseth, and he was basically describing Jane Doe's dress. Hegseth did not remember being chastised for being too loud and did not remember an argument by the pool. Hegseth did not remember being belligerent with anyone. Hegseth advised that he went back to his hotel room with Jane Doe. Hegseth thought it was odd that Jane Doe stayed in his room. She sat down in the room and did not leave. Hegseth stated Jane Doe and himself did not do much talking at the bar. Hegseth stated he did more talking to a different woman at the bar. Hegseth stated Jane Doe might have felt she was in charge and had led Hegseth to his room. Hegseth stated that there was nothing in his mind and that he was going to take Jane Doe home, and stated it's not even a thought. He might have thought that with someone else, but not Jane Doe. Hegseth stated that he was confused by Jane Doe staying in his room. While in the room, he stated things progressed between himself and Jane Doe. The interaction between Hegseth and Jane Doe was consensual. Hegseth stated there were a couple of times he made sure Jane Doe was comfortable with what was going on between the two of them. Hegseth stated there was always conversation, always consensual contact between the two of them. Hegseth stated the engagement between himself and Jane Doe was mutual. They would both stop and say, we shouldn't do this, but things consensually continued. Hegseth advised that Jane Doe had asked Hegseth if he had a condom. Hegseth told her he didn't. He told her that they could stop if that was a problem. Jane Doe said, no, it's not a problem. Hegseth stated he did not want to get anyone pregnant. Hegseth stated he had sex with Jane Doe. The positions were missionary style, and she was on top of him. Hegseth stated he wore dog tags. Hegseth stated he pulled out of Jane Doe and sprayed on her body. Hegseth gave her something to clean up with, and Jane Doe later got dressed. After the act, Hegseth stated that it was very early in the morning, and there was a very clear conversation with Jane Doe. Jane Doe stated she would tell her husband that she would fall asleep on the couch in someone else's room. Hegseth continually asked Jane Doe if she was okay because he did not want Jane Doe to get in trouble. Hegseth told Jane Doe that she did not have to worry about him saying anything. Hegseth stated Jane Doe showed her early signs of regret. He did not elaborate about the signs of regret. I provided Hegseth with my contact information and case report number. Nothing he says in this seems refuted by anything that she says. Like, nothing he says, other than the fact that she goes to get a kit later on. He said the last thing he followed up with a call saying that after he engaged with Jane Doe, he told Jane she could take a shower, but Jane declined the offer. All right. So there you go. I'm Team Pete. That's where I'm at after this. There's nothing here. I don't know. I don't see it. Do you guys see something that I'm missing? Am I missing something here? Am I missing something? She doesn't even know that she was attacked. I'm sorry. Johnny Reb says, Joe, she went to the room with him in the same hotel as her husband and kids. It seems to me I'm gonna claim, all right, save my marriage after cheating. Yeah, that sounds like a good call there. Oh, says you can't steal Ken Paxton from us, Joe. Well, it's not going to happen anyway. It's not going to happen anyway. You ask me, I'm Team Pete. I don't think he did anything here. I think this is complete crap. They're going to try and get, oh, well, he paid her money. Well, yeah, of course he paid her money because, you know, you make a problem go away if she signs an NDA. It's like, it's totally worth it. It's totally worth it. Hey, Joe, are you going to talk about Texas gag order case, Dr. Ethan Haim? You saying Haig, but you mean Haim tonight. I wasn't going to. I wasn't going to. I did find a copy of the gag order. Okay, so what Mud Duck is bringing up here, and he's a member for 3 months, which means like he's going into his second trimester soon. Dr. Ethan Haim is a whistleblower from Texas who came out and basically talked about how they're basically hacking they're mutilating children's genitalia for political purposes in a hospital down there. He ended up being prosecuted for breaching the privacy confidentiality of patients, and now they're trying to issue a gag order on him. So someone brought this case up to my attention yesterday. I had not heard of Dr. Ethan. I don't know, it's Ethan or Ethan, but its last name is spelled Haim. And I actually dropped a note on him because he talks about it on social media, on X. So I dropped a note under there saying I'd love to take a look at his case. I didn't follow up on it because I actually found the request for a gag order. It was helpful. It was helpful because the gag order application, which just got started yesterday or 2 days ago, has yet to be considered by the court, where they're basically saying we want him silenced because we're afraid he's going to prejudice the jury, which is very similar to what they said in Trump's cases. So I was thinking maybe I want to see if they relied on the Trump decision of the DC Circuit Court. I figured that would help bolster my concerns that this shouldn't happen. They actually cite a case from the Fifth Circuit from the year 2000, which is U.S. v. Brown. In this case, in U.S. v. Brown, the Fifth Circuit was a case that came out of Louisiana, which is the same circuit as Texas. So in that case, the court started analyzing a litany of different Supreme Court cases that come up in the context of the Trump gag that I was basically breaking down for the court. And the Fifth Circuit, like the DC Circuit in U.S. v. Brown, seemed to concur, saying there is a concept of fair administration of justice that can be used against a criminal defendant. I disagree with their logic. I disagree with their perspective on it. All this basically pounds home is there's a real circuit split here. One of the things that was helpful in that decision, the U.S. v. Brown, because I read through that decision very carefully, it was very, very helpful, is they start identifying how there's a circuit split as to how you look at, that there's a circuit split as to how you look at this issue of if you're going to silence someone, whether it has to be a reasonable concern or whether it has to be an imminent concern that there's going to be harm from their speech. There's to be a reasonable concern or clear and present danger of it. An imminent harm that will flow from it. And that's a very important distinction. The Fifth Circuit embraced the more lax standard. And they talk about how the Fourth and Tenth Circuit embraced the more lax standard. Lax meaning more permissive for a court to gag people. Whereas the Ninth, the Sixth, Seventh, and Ninth Circuits said no, it has to be, you can only restrict the speech if there's an imminent harm that's going to be coming from it. Anyhow, so I don't think it's going to help me. It helped me as far as just like pointing me towards a couple of other cases across the country historically that never made it to SCOTUS. But, and if I'm successful, in theory, it would help him, It would help Dr. Haim. Well, yeah, that's what I'm giving you on that. How are the Littles? Are they back home? Who's Littles? What are you talking about? He has tattoos, which is unacceptable, I think. Not sure what everyone else is falling on this salacious piece of knowledge. Nice. Does he have tattoos? I guess she thought he didn't have tattoos. One question he has Has he had a dead intern before in his office? That's an important question. Diggo said. She got caught cheating her husband and panicked. I think that's what a lot of us are taking. Jane Doe was at the hotel with her husband and kids. No signs are from the kit. GHB. Where's drug results from the kit? It's 4 days later. So everything I was saying about how someone goes to get a kit, that's a sign of genuine attack. When it's 4 days later, no, to me, that's not any sign. That's a sign of someone who wants to bolster a claim that they're intending to raise. When you're going 4 days after, I'm not buying it anymore. That's not anything to me. That's not anything. That's a woman looking to Me Too someone. That's what it sounds like to me. When you tell me 4 days after, and in between you've had sex, what is the point of going there? You showered multiple times, had sex multiple times, and you tell me that now that to me going forget the kit at that point is actually an argument against the victim. And you see, I really want to. My objective is to really find truth. Here's why I say it's an argument against the victim. Because what the hell are you thinking is going to be gained going 4 days later? Why would you think it's going to help at all? The only reason you would be doing it is that you can say, I did that because I was genuinely attacked. But there's no way I can imagine that someone that 4 days after the fact, and when you had an encounter with a different person in between, which for all we know, that was very physical, that person could have left impact on you, which would reflect, that there was, you could have had very rough coitus, which would make it look, it would make your body look more like it had been attacked during this subsequent encounter. You showered multiple times. What the heck are you getting? What the heck are you getting from this kit? Which to my mind, there's nothing you can get from this kit. And if there's nothing you can get from the kit, and logic dictates that you're not going to get anything from this kit, then I have to ask myself, well, why are you going for it? And the only most logical reason that I can come up with that you would go for that kit is that you could say, oh, look, I really was a victim. I even went to get a kit. So to me, if you tell me she went that night to get a kit, I'm like, okay, that's something I want to take seriously. If you're telling me that she goes 4 days after the fact, I take that seriously, but the exact opposite way, where I'm like, no. Now you're basically some bitch who's trying to track someone. That's what it says to me. Especially if you were engaged with someone, you had interaction, you had sex with someone else in between. No. That's garbage. That's garbage to me. That's crazy. So I assume that you were just trying to bolster a case, and that's why you went for it. Because it makes no sense to me. Now, I could be correct if someone tells me that, in fact, there is some benefit to having 4 days later, that there's something that they likely can glean, even if you had sex with a different person in between, and you showered multiple times, and you tell me 4 days later you go that there's something you can gain out of it to show what happened 2 encounters ago. I'd be surprised, but if someone tells me I'm mistaken on the science, that there is something to be gained from a kid at that point, then I would be like, okay, maybe, I don't know. Maybe it's not a negative. It's definitely not nearly the same positive, because there's something called contemporaneous reporting. There's no contemporaneous reporting here. You go days after and start saying, I was attacked. And you can't even tell details. I don't remember how I ended up in the room, but I do remember I wanted to leave and he said no. Really? Really? I don't remember how I ended up in the room, but the next thing I know, I woke up the next morning. I also remember that he said, I want to leave, and he said, no, you cannot leave. Yeah. My mind says she's full of crap. I think she's just like she's trying to lean in on the whole Me Too thing. Did she? I believe it. Believe all C. As a husband first thought you cheated. Second, I'm not having sex before a rape kit. That's what I'm saying. It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. And you're right. We should never gloss over that. Honestly, I don't know anymore. This doesn't even rate a second of our time to read about. It gives them an inch. F that. Too much wolf crying. Listen, I think you give an inch, and to sort of see what sort of legitimacy there is. Otherwise, you just become a rah-rah cheerleader and you're ignoring a potential wolf in your own circles. That doesn't help anyone. It doesn't have, and you're exposing other people to harm. But yeah, this is crap. The more I look at it, the more crap it looks like to me. And I'm coming to the camp of this is hot garbage. That's where I've come to. But this claim against Pete Hegseth is complete hot garbage. This reminds me of way too much Kavanaugh Blasey Ford. This one holds as much water as a sea like that one. Well, now that we've looked at it, you know what I'm saying? Like, now we can appreciate it. It's only by looking at the police report that we can be like, what? And I was really looking at it, like I had glanced through it very quickly earlier. I was looking through it much more thoroughly now. And I'm like, the more I'm looking at this, I'm like, this claim sucks. Waiting for the Pam Bondi sex allocation scandal. That'd be great. Matt, hit me with another 10 Good Lawgic memberships. Maybe let's get them. I don't know if we're going to get them. Maybe let's get them. Maybe, possibly, could be. I'm already late, and I have stuff I wanted to cover with you guys. And I'm supposed to close. I'm late for my other show. I don't know if I told you this, but I'm supposed to be doing a show on locals at goodlogic.locals.com. That's goodlogic.locals.com. Norm had a joke on SNL. Experts say STD rates dropped by 60% this year. To more use, experts say STD rates dropped by 60% this year. To more use of condoms. Viewers should also know that unsafe sex feels better. There you go. That was my best. Keep your schmeckling trousers problem solved. That would be. It would be. But it's not a realistic expectation. I'm afraid it's not a realistic expectation. But for a few, it's not a realistic expectation. I wanted to talk to you all about this new bill that's coming out. That's one thing I wanted to cover with you. I'm going to play this real quick.
Swan Auction Galleries, we have a different way of looking.
I'll bring this up. So a bill was introduced to amend Title 18 to provide a penalty for assault against journalists and other purposes by Senator Blumenthal and Mr. Menendez. Brought up in May. Introduced the following bill. To amend Title 18, this act may be cited as a Journalist Protection Act. In general, Chapter 7, bodily injury, the terms bodily injury and serious bodily injury. Journalist, term journalist means an individual who is an employee, independent contractor, or agent of an entity or service. Let me move this over here so I can get this thing going. That disseminates news or information by means of newspaper, nonfiction book, wire service agencies. But basically, if you're a very special journalist, very, very special journalist, which they think means only them, when really I would say that anyone is a journalist, I would say you're a journalist. If you collect news and you plan on talking to people about it, you're a journalist. There you go. News gathering, the term news gathering means engaging in regular gathering, preparation, collection, photographing, recording, writing, editing, reporting, publishing concerning a local, national, or international event or other matters of public interest. So whoever intentionally commits or attempt to commit an act described in subsection C causes bodily injury to an individual as an individual. So whoever causes bodily, this basically read like this: whoever intentionally commits or attempts to cause bodily injury to an individual who's a journalist and with knowledge or reason that the person is a journalist and committed while he's doing the news or with the intention of stopping him from delivering the news, that person will be in prison for not more than 3 years or both And if it's in D, which is serious bodily harm, if they do serious bodily harm, in that case, they get 6 years. 6 years. So this is special laws for journalists, because journalists are oh so special. Let's listen to this clown explain why this is such a critical thing.
Committee to Protect Journalists issued a statement warning of a potentially hostile climate for press freedom under a second Trump term.
Clown.
It read in part, legal persecution, imprisonment, physical violence, and even killings have sadly become familiar threats for journalists across the world. They must not now also become commonplace in the United States, where threats of violence and online harassment have in recent years become routine. That's as advocates are urging Senate lawmakers to pass a bipartisan bill that would protect journalists from government spying and other interference.
Government spying. See, you didn't see that in that one, did you? You didn't see that in that one. That bill from the Senate doesn't have that. I think there's a different bill that I haven't found yet, which is from the House. Now they shouldn't. Now he can't investigate.
Jody Ginsburg is the CEO of the Committee to Protect Journalists and joins us now. Thanks for being here.
Thank you for having me.
So your organization and others have raised concerns about what Trump's second term could mean for press freedoms. What are your specific worries, and what have you seen already that gives you pause?
I think we need to think about two things specifically about a new Trump administration. The first,
a Trump administration, not what was happening in the Biden administration, where they were silencing people left and right. No, we have to worry about Trump.
Is around legal threats, and the second is around regulation. There are many others that we can talk about, but those are the ones I think we really need to be alive to in the second administration. Already in the days leading up to the election, Trump issued a host of legal threats against organizations like the New York Times, CBS, and others. We might expect to see more of that in the new Trump administration. Personal legal cases. He's suing, I think, the New York Times and CBS for $10 billion each. Personal legal threats, but also potentially challenges to pieces of legislation that have for decades protected the press against vexatious lawsuits, like the Supreme Court case Sullivan versus New York Times, which allows the press to publish public interest information and be protected from being sued for defamation.
I want to ask you about a more recent piece of legislation. This is the Press Act, which is designed to protect journalists from being surveilled by federal law enforcement, and it would limit the government's ability to make journalists disclose their sources, among other protections. This bill had bipartisan support in the House. Time is now running out for it to be passed in the Senate. Why is this piece of legislation, in your view, so critical?
It's really urgent that we pass this federal shield law. So some states have these federal protections, which essentially means that journalist sources can't be subpoenaed, information from whistleblowers can't be subpoenaed. It's really important that we have that federal shield law to protect journalists at the federal level. We know that Trump is interested in going after.
No, you don't know Jack. You don't know anything. You're an idiot. You're an airheaded alarmist, Chicken Little, screaming here that he's going after what we've seen the Biden administration. You weren't worried about this for 4 years. All of a sudden now you're worried about it. Go to hell.
Whistleblowers, people who leak.
Whistleblowers, really? It's the Biden administration that's going after Ethan Haim, after whistleblowers. You're literally prosecuting him and gagging him. You were worried about lawfare from Trump. Go to hell.
And it's absolutely essential that they are protected and that journalist sources are protected. And
oh, shut up, idiot. You're a clown. You're a clown.
Journalists are allowed to do their job.
At the same time, I think it's fair to say that journalists and journalism
HR
could benefit
4250
from some self-reflection. And I say that because the percentage of Americans who say they have a great deal or a fair amount of trust in the mass media has fallen to a record low, according to a new Gallup survey, to 31%. And there are people who say that Trump's decisive
was passed the House. Unbelievable. Passed the House. This bill prohibits the federal government from compelling journalists who provide telecommunication services to disclose certain protected information, except in limited circumstances, such as to prevent terrorism or imminent violence. Specifically, protects disclosure of any information identifying a source, as well as any records, contents, communication, documents, information obtained. Okay, that I can be okay with. That I can be okay with, I guess. I don't disclose my sources. That's the Eric Snowden thing. That's okay. Further, will protect specified third parties from being compelled to provide testimony or any document consisting of record information. I thought this was all protected already. I don't think this is the right bill. I don't think this is the right bill. That's not what she was describing.
Win really just is a complete repudiation.
We did see Abraham Lincoln jailed people who were not reporters.
Of the news media. How do you see it, and how can the news media rebuild trust?
I think the news media can rebuild trust by continuing to do what journalism does, which is to publish news and information in the public interest. And while it's true that...
That's what they've done? Really? Airheaded doofus. I can't. I'm sorry. I can't listen to her anymore. I can't. Look, I'm all for any bill which basically says that you're allowed to protect your sources. That I'm totally fine with. Something that gives you special protections from being investigated, that makes no sense to me. But as far as those protections, I was under the impression that you're already protected from having to turn over those sources. So I don't know what the objective of that bill is, other than to say, we think Trump is going to engage in lawfare against us because we're fake news. And listening to this fake news woman start talking about like how this is a unique problem under Trump. It's only a unique problem under Trump if you've been part of the propaganda machine that's been perpetuating complete and total disinformation under the guise of this is real information for the last 16 years. Speaking of which, part of what I plan on covering in my locals after party, which is going to be starting in like 10 minutes, because I'm winding down now. If you just giving you a heads up, I am winding down very quickly. 10 minutes from now, I expect to be on locals. Locals after party, goodlogic.locals.com. Link is in the description. It's in the chat. It's everywhere. You can find it everywhere. It's a miracle if you haven't accidentally clicked it already. So I plan on basically talking about the disinformation from the media about certain 2020 issues. Excuse me. And I also plan on talking about other stuff that's been happening with respect to things in Ukraine, war there, and I'm also planning on reviewing Dana Penny's interrogation. So it's a wide array of different things. Probably hang out with you guys for a good hour there. That is going to be in the locals after party, which is going to be starting, I want to say, it was scheduled for 1 o'clock. I want to say it's going to start 1:35. That's my a.m. Eastern. That's my guess. I need to set up. The stream is already set up, and I need to set the link in. And yeah, if you cannot afford it, it's $5 a month to become a member on locals. If you cannot afford it, simply DM me. I'll take care of you. Say, Joe, I enjoy your content. I appreciate if you hook me up with the link. I can't afford it. I'm not gonna remember who you are. I'll just send you a link. I'll just send you a code to sign up. The reason I have $5 overhead there is in case one day, God forbid, YouTube decides to slam my channel shut. At least this way I have some sort of drips and drabs that will be coming in from locals. And yeah, so there you go. Anyhow, so that's my story. Should I have time for this? Make sure I didn't miss anything. I have some videos that I really shouldn't share here. Otherwise, YouTube is going to get mad at me. Like, they're going to give me a whole copyright thing. I just don't want to deal with it. I'm tired of every day this week. Every day for the last 2 weeks, I've been dealing with copyright claims. So I'm tired of dealing with it. So I'm going to share those over on locals as well. That's going to be, like I said, by 1:35, I expect that to be started. Yeah, they can only compel. Exactly. That's the only people they can compel. Again, I didn't really hit up on this before. Those of you who did get gifted courtesy of awesome Captain Matt Skinner, I'd be most obliged if you can express your gratitude to him. Thank you so much for your amazing support, Matt, and bringing in all these people to the following. The following is really, it's the only place that you know you're with other individuals who are genuinely concerned about personal growth. I mean, and some might call it, some think that it's some sort of It's not at all a cult. Type of cult. So don't be afraid. Don't be alarmed. Just express your gratitude and just accept it that joining the following was always your destiny. You're one of us. One of us. One of us. One of us. And we here in the following will remind you never, ever, ever touch lab meat. Lab meat is meant for they, them, and not for you. Also, no matter how hard they, them try to convince you to eat those flies or whatever, all that other stuff, don't eat the bugs. Do not eat the bugs. Heading on over to Locals, goodlogic.locals.com. Join us over there. I got some more. I got a ton of content, much of which I can't share here. And I'll see you all there very shortly in the next 5 minutes or so. 7 minutes. 7 minutes. 7 minutes. 7. The rest of you, good night. And to all of you, Godspeed.